Hey there, Coastal Bend meteorologist Carly Smith here. We are starting this Facebook Live. The sound is on now, Amy. So thank you so much for joining. We have had quite the start to the morning. Temperatures cold. Of course, they did wind up being cold enough for the freezing rain to start this morning. A lot of problems out on our roadways, lots of traffic accidents. So it's still best to just stay home. The latest look at radar, we'll take a look at that now as we kick off this South Texas Freeze Facebook Live. So we are seeing improvements. There's not as much freezing rain out there as earlier this morning, so that's the good news. This is something cool that I showed briefly during first edition, but it is called correlation coefficient. And essentially, a lot of times this is used to track debris during severe weather, but during winter weather, you can kind of see where the change in precip is taking place. So we get a lot of ground clutter from windmills and wind turbines and blowing sand and salt and moisture coming off the Gulf, right? Well, where we are seeing the deeper reds, so that's approaching the radar right now at Corpus Christi International Airport along Padre Island. So this is J.P. Luby right now, getting some of that freezing rain happening, as well as up into portions of San Patricio County and down toward Rivera. So this is where we're seeing the freezing rain coming up out of the south. And that's going to continue to be an issue for us. So then when we go back to radar, you see the moving section of the pink, that's what's actually falling. So like this right here, that's going to be wind turbines. This is wind turbines up near Taft. But whatever's moving in this loop, that's going to be pockets of freezing rain. And so the good news is we are starting to see less of the freezing rain. The bad news is we're going to stay below freezing, it looks like, all day long now, all day long. So make sure y'all are asking questions. If you have any, I'll do my best to answer them. Of course, super detailed, super specific is not easy anytime with the weather, but just a heads up there. So we're even seeing some of the rain transition to freezing rain down south toward the valley. So a lot of cold temperatures. Houston's starting to get more of the bulk of this. So hazardous roads between here and Houston. Let me make sure I have all 5 radars on. Yeah, I did. So let's go back. So anyway, here it is. Let's go to our satellite imagery. So we're still really cloudy. We're going to stay cloudy. The bulk of this has actually gone a little bit farther south than originally anticipated. So when we turn on our watches and warnings, the winter storm warning was expanded. So this is new information. Winter storm warning expanded south into the coastal bend. I don't think they're going to see as much as originally anticipated north of here across I-10. It shifted a little bit further south. That's where the moisture stream out of the Pacific set up. Our temperatures fell and we got the freezing rain this morning. And that's just how things played out. And so we were preparing for that freezing rain all weekend long. We were making posts about it. So hopefully you were prepared, but definitely so sorry for anybody that hit the roads and was like, oh my goodness, this is slick. It's tough when you fall. As soon as temperatures fall below freezing, any rain that falls is going to be super cooled and it will freeze on contact, and that's exactly what we got. Looking through these comments right now, snow flurries. So I've got some information on the snow. Snow needles are everywhere. That's more so what it is. It's not snowflakes in the traditional sense. It is going to be snow needles and kind of grapple, or what's essentially happening is that super cooled rain that is also out there with the snow needles is accumulating on the snow needles in the same way that it accumulates on the ground, on our surfaces, and so forth. I do not recommend driving on I-37 right now. Not at all. Is this going to be gone in the morning? That's the issue. So we're not expected to get above freezing anymore. And that's going to keep slick spots on the roadways, unfortunately. If we do, TxDOT likely will keep putting down some brine on our roads and our bridges and overpasses. But areas that are slick now likely won't see huge improvements. Obviously, not encouraging anyone to drive on the road, but when you get tire traction on the road, that also helps melt some stuff. But again, not encouraging anyone to drive in these conditions. But I'm not expecting us to get above freezing. We'll get close this afternoon. We're going to get drier this afternoon, so we're going to lose the precipitation, but we're not going to get above freezing. So by tomorrow morning, we won't have a new round of ice on our surfaces, but anything that is not able to melt, which won't be easy because we're not going to get above freezing, you've got to get above freezing or have sunlight in order to melt stuff. And we're going to stay cloudy all day. The sun does come out tomorrow morning, and we do get above freezing. So on this graphic, what you're looking at, the white line, the temperatures are on the left side. So teens is highlighted in pink, 20s is highlighted in purple, then 32 is that kind of grayish blue line, then 30s is the royal blue line, right? So once we get above 32 degrees, which it looks like we will do tomorrow, then that's when we have a chance to melt some of the freezing precipitation that has fallen. But at this point, it's probably not going to melt. And so we're still going to have slick spots. If anything is able to melt and not evaporate, that will reform as black ice heading into tomorrow morning as well. So tomorrow morning is potentially going to still be hazardous morning commute. We'll look at the hour by hour temperature here. Let me find it. So Tuesday, right around lunchtime. So lunchtime into the afternoon tomorrow is probably the first time we'll be below freezing. So we fell below freezing. Let me see if I have the past 24-hour temperature. So here's our last 20 hours. Look at that. That's so impressive. Just look at it. Okay, essentially, we made it to 60 degrees yesterday, which was wild. Yesterday, if I'm being honest, yesterday actually trended much warmer than I anticipated. We had more sunshine, and then this morning is about what I expected, but it was a few degrees colder. I thought we would be closer to 30. We're in that hard freeze level. So we've been at a hard freeze since 5 a.m. Pipes start to be impacted after 6 hours of a hard freeze. So we are approaching that as we head into the 11 o'clock hour. We will be 28 degrees or below for 6 hours by 11 a.m. in Corpus Christi. Beeville, B County, you've been colder than that for much longer. Let's check out your last 20-hour temperatures. That's not what I wanted. Hope they load. Come on, Beeville. Okay, here we go. So Beeville has been under freezing since 7 p.m. yesterday. So you've been under freezing for 12, 13, 14, 15, going on 16 hours. And you've been in a hard freeze since 11 p.m. So going on 12 hours of a hard freeze up near Beeville. And you're going to stay probably in that hard freeze level for another 24 hours. I would say by this time tomorrow morning, we start to get out of the hard freeze and we start to approach temperatures at or above freezing in Beeville. You're still going to be about 4 or 5 degrees colder than Corpus Christi. So whatever we're spitting out for Corpus Christi, expect 4 or 5 degrees colder than that up that direction. Essentially, yes. So the thing is, so what the brine does, if TxDOT is treating the roadways, what the brine does is it lowers the freezing level of the water. And by lowering the freezing level, I don't remember what that exact number is. I've done this experiment before with salt, like salt and snow. But what the brine does, the salt does, is it lowers the freezing level of water. And so instead of freezing at 32 degrees, water freezes somewhere in the 20s. I believe when I worked in Ohio, once it got into the teens, like below 18 degrees, is when they started mixing in beet juice to the brine as well, because that helps lower the water freezing level even lower than just salt in itself. So fun fact there, if you need to unfreeze your driveway, you can try beet juice or salt. But of course, salt is corrosive to things, which we know good and well down here, living near the coast. So that's why we don't like to use salt on our roadways in Texas, from what I understand, because it can be corrosive. But that's what they did up in Ohio, and so that's some of the tricks and tips that I learned from up there. But regardless, it's cold, 22 degrees, the coldest temperature up in Beeville. We're at 24 now, so pretty crazy conditions over the last 20 hours, especially considering we were at 60. Where was Beeville yesterday afternoon? So 40, which is where I thought Corpus would be. I thought we would be in the 40s, a little bit warmer than that, but that front kind of stalled and hovered in our area, so it allowed Corpus to be at 60, while Beeville's 20 degrees colder than Corpus, which is wild for yesterday. Let's talk about the snow. A lot of y'all are commenting on snow. So it's not true snow, but it is related. They're buddies, I guess you can say. So what we have here is our sounding, right, in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Let's see if I can get an arrow to point things out. Okay, so this isn't the best colored arrow. I can change the color. Okay, let's try this arrow. Yeah. Okay, so what you're looking at right here. So in a traditional snow growth region, that would be, so we have this negative 20 degrees Celsius line right here, and we have this negative 10 degrees Celsius line right here. This little blue marking right here on the red line, that's your true snow growth region. And what happens in that area is the red line and the gray line meet up. So the green line is your dew point, or the moisture in the atmosphere. And if that moisture is not the same temperature as the air, there's no saturation, and you're not gonna get clouds, you're not gonna get precipitation, you're not gonna get snow, you're not gonna get rain. But what happened down here in the lower levels of the atmosphere, so you can see our temperatures do get close to that snow growth region down at the surface, right? So right at the surface. We have seen fog and mist and freezing rain and freezing mist all morning long. We've seen that sea fog, or that steam fog. That's pretty exciting also. John Thomas is joining in.
Jumping in on your
I don't know
space.
if you made it, and we're in the little box.
Oh, even smaller. So I need
Wait,
to be right here.
we can join in bigger. Hold on, I got it.
Yeah, okay, I'll come around.
Yeah.
No, we're going over the planning for tomorrow, and I want to let you know Faith is going to be with us, covering any kind of crazy happenings around town. But I just wanted to make sure you need a coordinator with her before you left or she left today. So I'm excited, but we'll have her out in the field.
Yeah,
the
great.
weather.
So we'll know where those icy spots are. Much easier tomorrow with the help of Faith Colbert as well.
Additional resources. That's what we're here for you.
Double
Okay.
team, double meteorologist. So we're gonna be ready. So back to the snow. So what we had going on right through here. Let me bring it back up. Okay, I'm gonna make it big and get rid of my name. Okay. So what we have going on right here is where we get to the coldest temperatures. And so those temperatures are not quite in the typical snow growth region, but they do get down to about -5 degrees Celsius, or about 21 to 23 degrees Fahrenheit. And there are ice crystals. It's not the same as a snowflake if we want to get technical, but they're called snow needles. And so this ice crystal was able to develop right at our surface. So we've got a lot of these snow needles that are showing up. That's what this image is showing, where they accumulated in windshields. A lot of you are seeing these snow needles. So it's cold enough right at our surface for snow needles to form, but not cold enough for the traditional snow that you can like build snowmen with and have fun. These are really fine, thin little ice crystals, and essentially if you notice different shapes or some more like ball-like shapes, that's from the super cooled water that's freezing on contact, causing all of our roadways, right, to be frozen. What's essentially happening there is that super cold water is hitting the snow needle, and you're getting some thicker pieces of ice. But it's not sleet, it's technically not snow, and I'm getting some messages from Alan about it as well, because truly, when John Thomas walked out, so this is a little bit of a story time. Hopefully y'all are okay with that. When John Thomas walked out to film him scraping the ice off of his windshield, right? He came back in and was like, Carly, there's like snowflakes or sleet out there. And I was like, no way. Because if you're looking at the sounding, there's no moisture in the snow growth region. And in order to get sleet or ice crystals, typically, there has to be snow. You start with a ice crystal in the snow growth region. Then it kind of falls throughout the atmosphere, and it changes based on the temperature profile down below it, but it typically starts up higher in the atmosphere, and we are not starting there. So it's kind of a fascinating, weird weather phenomenon that has happened, but our low levels are super saturated, and the temps are close to the snow growth region at the surface, right? So like I said, we got down to -5 degrees Celsius, typically your snow growth region, for a true known snowflake with the 6 little pieces coming off and no snowflake looks the same. That develops between -10 and -20. It's actually more specific than that. It's like -12 to -18 or something like that. But regardless, this is outside of our normal snow growth region. And so there's just deposition taking place in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And maybe being close to waterways, especially where that steam fog is taking place, that's another fascinating thing that's happening today. I want to show you guys that. It's so cool. Like, this weather is dangerous. Like, don't get me wrong, it is dangerous, it is hazardous. There's been a lot of crashes, and we do not want that. But there's something fascinating about winter weather and how it interacts with things. Like, this is just so cool to me. So this is our Lex camera, right? This is what we call steam fog. And so essentially what's happening is you have below freezing temperatures. I don't think it necessarily has to be below freezing, but what's going on is, which this could be leading to some of those ice needles or snow needles forming, actually, which is what Alan was texting me about also. So I'm like brainstorming everything while I'm looking at this. But another thing to think about, so essentially what's happening is the water is warmer than the air right now, which is crazy. Our water temperature, last I checked, was 56. That was like during first edition, so I'm sure it's fallen since then. And that's in the Laguna Madre. So anyway, water temperature this morning was 56 degrees. Our air temperature right now is in the 20s. It is 27 at Corpus Christi, right? So it's 27 degrees right now. That cold air is moving over the warmer water temperatures, and essentially what that is doing is causing that condensation to just take place almost instantly. And so with the temperature so cold right there near the surface, as the steam fog rises, it's already condensed, right? As it condenses in the colder temperatures, essentially we could be getting some of these ice needles because of the steam fog. So if anyone's watching from northern areas like B County, Beeville, Live Oak, even Sinton, areas that aren't downstream. So right now, let's go back to the radar. So right now, our freezing rain is traveling from the south to the north, but our wind is wind. Okay, so our wind is, this is Futurecast, but our wind is out of the north, right? Here's our current winds. So our wind is out of the north. That's what's bringing in that colder air. When I go to school talks, I love talking about how it's Santa Claus air because it is essentially coming from the Arctic, which is where the North Pole is. And so we have truly Santa Claus air in Corpus Christi right now for any kids that may be watching or their parents want to tell them. But so Santa came at Christmas. Now he's letting us share some of his air. Isn't that wonderful? So anyway, I just hit a button. Oh, it was just enter. So let's go back. Here's our wind out of the north, 17 miles per hour. So essentially what I was going to show is it would be fascinating to get a map compiled of where people are seeing the snow needles and if it's downstream of water, essentially. So our air, so the wind is blowing that steam fog, right, all the way across the bay. And that's probably, oh, I didn't mean to draw it like that. I can't get it to stop. Okay, let's redo this. So, like the station is downstream of that steam fog coming off the bay. And so essentially that's leading to more condensation, more moisture, more chance for precipitation. And so that might be why we are getting some of those ice needles or snow needles, essentially, is areas downstream. I think Padre Island has been getting some. So that would be downstream kind of the Laguna, Port Aransas, our beaches. I saw a picture from the beach. It wasn't clear to me what they were taking a picture of. I think it was from Wind and Wave, but where they were checking out the surf, but they also showed the dunes. Well, it's really like the sand pile over at JP Luby. They were at South Pack. And so looking across Packery Channel to North Pack, what they had, or what it looked like was possibly those ice crystals or snow needles that coated the sand pile. That's what it looked like to me. I'm not sure. I didn't ask questions, but anyway, it just would be really interesting to see if it was downstream of where we're getting the steam fog, or if anyone inland, not near a big body of water that's warm, is seeing those needles also. So I'm gonna look in the comments while we're doing all of this fun chatting and see if anybody has made any reports. Okay, people want to know about the roads. Yes, okay, so Drive Texas. Let me see if I can get the website so I can post it directly. This is the best way to know about the roads because we will know about it, but half the time, we're getting our information from this website as well. So it's drivetexas.org. I'm going to post the link on this Facebook Live. Get it together, Carly. Hey, Sam. Okay, so here we go. This is the link. This is the latest map. Why won't it let me post a picture? Okay, maybe you can't post pictures during a Facebook Live, but this is the website to go to, drivetexas.org. I think it's showing the latitude and longitude for where I zoomed in. Some light powder snow in North Beach. Yeah, so I think that's those needles. So essentially the drier the snow develops, or in the colder. So the colder and drier the snow is, or the less time the moisture has to kind of grow that ice crystal. So those needles are kind of the drier end of snow. They're not the wet, sloppy snow, but they are more the powdery, light, fluffy snow, right? Essentially, that would create that powdery snow look, but they're really kind of just like thin little ice needles. I'm getting snow needles and flurries off off North Padre Island. Okay. Half a mile from Bob Hall. You just gotta be here. Yeah. You can send photos, because I don't think they let you post them on Facebook Live, which is annoying. But my Facebook page is Carly Smith WX. You can send messages or just post it on my page, however you want, photos. And then we can look at all the ice needles and snowflakes or whatever you're seeing, and we can all analyze it and see where it's happening. Because I am super curious to see if it is downwind from our bodies of water. So that would have Port Aransas, that would have potentially Rockport. I don't know if the Aransas Bay or Copano Bay is big enough, but definitely Port Aransas blowing down blowing down Aransas Bay. Most of Corpus downwind, so the wind's out of the north, so anywhere along Ocean Drive and then inland as far as it goes. Padre Island, a lot of reports from there. So I think the steam fog might be playing a role in the ice needles, the snow needles developing. Word of the day, essentially. What is the word of the day? Snow needles? I missed that conversation. Where can I find that movie? I wonder what movie y'all are talking about. Update for Port Aransas. Okay, I'll get into the radar and the temperatures next. Any of the roadways and bridges, yeah. Drive Texas is such a great thing that TxDOT does. It's updated pretty quickly during snowy conditions. It wasn't updating super fast this morning. I think things are just happening so fast that it was hard for me to stay up to date. It was hard for TxDOT to stay up to date. I walked outside at right around 6:30. I walked outside. We only had rain at the station. There was nothing frozen on the windshields. I did it again at 6:55, right before the end of the show, frozen solid, right? So things escalated rather quickly, and that's what happens. The difference between a temperature right at 32 degrees, because Flower Bluff, so we're between Everhard and Staples, and Flower Bluff is probably more close to our temperature reading than, say, the airport farther inland, right? And so we were probably hovering right around 32 degrees. Inland was already in the 20s, and Flower Bluff was hanging out at 34 most of the morning show. So until that temperature falls below freezing, you're not gonna get any freezing rain. Now, you can get snow with the temperatures above freezing. You can get sleet with the temperatures above freezing. We can go into that if you want to, but I don't know if it's necessary. It's pretty simple, but we'll go into that later. So if you want to hear about how you get frozen precipitation with the temperatures above freezing, we'll talk about that later. For now, I'll show you guys Futurecast. So here's a look at what we're expecting. So this is through 9. Actually, let's get one of the... That's the one I use for the morning show. Let's get one that is starting out live. This is not going to show precip types yet because it is picking up a radar. So, rain contour. We need this to be precip type, not base reflectivity. And we want it to be her. So, what is our plots right now? ICAST data. I'm going to change this to what I think is a little bit more accurate. The ICAST data, so this is a little weather secret. Don't tell anyone, I'm just kidding. Essentially, every morning I type in all the data for Corpus Christi. Then the computer kind of tries to configure the temperatures for everybody else based on what I input for Corpus Christi. It doesn't always do a good job. I do have the other areas zoned off to tweak their temperatures as well, but when you're busy, you just don't have time to get into those fine nitty-gritty details like you would like. So I am just going to change these temperatures to the HRRR model, which is what I would side with for what our temperatures will stay all day long. So, okay, rolling temperatures, METAR, NAM, MATIS, HRRR. We gotta do it one more time. Sorry for this little delay, but it's going to be more accurate because otherwise only Corpus Christi is accurate right now. And I want y'all to have the best data. Okay, so right here, we're in the 20s still. We're in the 30s. I don't think we get above freezing. That's the big takeaway from this. A, we've got a winter storm warning until 3 p.m. B, I don't think we get above freezing. The island might. Let's see what your current temperatures are. Okay, this is the current temp and wind chill. So right now we're hovering at 31 degrees at Flower Bluff, 28 Port Aransas. So I don't know if you're gonna get above freezing. I would say right at freezing or 33 degrees is possible. And if that happens, then it will be rain. So this model is keeping rain right along the coast through about 8 p.m. Temperatures staying right around freezing, if not above freezing. So you might wind up with rain, you might get more of those ice needles, and you might get some freezing rain. But that all depends on what exactly the temperature ends up being, and while I would love to be able to say, yes, it's going to be 32 degrees, it's so tough because on a normal day, we're forecasting a temperature and we say, you know, like it's going to be 65, right? The difference between 65 and 67 or 65 and 63, very minimal, right? You're barely going to notice that. I mean, in reality, a 3-degree temperature difference between the forecast and the actual temperature is very accurate. Like, that is very accurate. I'm proud of that when I'm within 3 degrees of the actual temperature. With that being said, when you're talking about 32 degrees, 3 degrees above 32 degrees is 35, you're gonna get rain. 3 degrees below 32 degrees is going to be in the 20s, and you're going to get some sort of frozen precipitation. So that's what makes winter weather forecasting so fun, but also so tricky. And so with that being said, a mix of rain and freezing rain and maybe some snow needles are going to be possible across our islands this evening. Then, as we head into the overnight hours, this model is keeping a little bit more rain a little longer than I would think. But what you're seeing is the drier air, I guess it's going more this way, the drier air being filtered, being brought in. So this is our drier and colder air, right? So let's make this the long version of the HRRR. So as of right now, 3 p.m. is when our winter storm warning is set to expire, right? I don't think Corpus Christi gets above freezing. If we see any more rain, it will be freezing rain. Maybe some snow noodles mixed in. Then the islands may get above freezing, but that's a close call, a very close call. This model is keeping rain with the potential of freezing rain in the forecast through 8 p.m. Really through about 4 a.m. I would say 8 p.m. is pretty much still not a guarantee, but it's still on the likely side. After 8 p.m., it's on the more possible side, right? Then that drier air, our clouds still aren't the extended high res. Hold on. Bear with me, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay, so that drier air starts to filter in. Well, this is actually keeping us more cloudy than I thought, but the drier air filters in and we get really cold. So the point of this is we will be in the lower 20s tomorrow morning. Our wind chill will likely be in the single digits tomorrow morning. The rain is gone, so we say goodbye to the rain. Look at that graphic. No rain on it. It's all to our south, right? No rain tomorrow morning. But whatever rain fell today will not melt. So we will still have some slick spots during the day tomorrow. As we head into tomorrow afternoon, we're flirting with a mix of cloud and sun. That will likely help us work our way into the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s. So we get above freezing, but barely on Tuesday. Then I don't think this model goes much further than that. Yeah. So another hard freeze is likely Wednesday morning. Right now it's taking it through about 3 a.m. Here are the temperatures I forecasted. And I tweet these. If you're watching First Edition, I made them colder. So because we're trending colder than I originally anticipated. So right now at 11:09, y'all, it's 26 degrees, feels like it's 13. Bundle up. Tuesday morning, 24 degrees, feels like it's 9. Our wind is stronger tomorrow morning. We're talking 20 miles per hour sustained wind out of the north still. Wednesday, the wind is much lighter. We have lighter winds on Wednesday, so our wind chill is not going to be as drastic. We'll be in the teens, but we're still falling into the 20s. Then finally on Wednesday, so here's our 7-day. This is the fun graphic. Not that it hasn't all been fun, right? 7-day forecast, 33, your high today, if we're lucky. I think we're gonna stay 32, 31. 39 degrees Tuesday. 52 degrees, your high Wednesday. We get into the 50s on Wednesday. That temperature doesn't fall very much. So I do Downtown Run Club Wednesday nights. We're from South Texas. We don't really like running in the cold weather, but it's a warmer day. Our low is only 45, so temperatures will be in the upper 40s, low 50s, right about the time the run is getting started. 74 degrees, year high on Thursday. We're actually going to see a little bit of a warm front, boost our temperatures, warm us up, and then a cold front comes through and we fall again, right? So temperatures will be falling likely. The timing is either Thursday night or Friday morning. That hasn't been nailed down quite yet, but that is going to have us near freezing by Saturday morning. So there's a chance for one more freeze this week. Right now I have us above freezing at 36 degrees, and then we warm up again. Let me tell you, this is another tip that you're getting just from watching this Facebook Live. Next week is trending warmer but rainier. So we actually have a decent shot at some rain next week. That's still more than 7 days out. Sunday could be the start of some of that rain, but that's what we're looking at to look forward to past this cold weather, right? So, okay, Alice, who coming from Alice? The water looks so cool. I want to go back to that. I love steam fog so much. It is just fascinating. I'm just going to leave this on. Y'all can watch this while I look through the comments. Okay. We have snow flurries in Alice. If you can send me a picture, Raina, that's Carly Smith WX. If you don't follow it already, please send me a picture of what your snow flurries look like. Like if you can get up close, that would be great. But just a generic kind of size or description of what this individual crystals look like would be amazing. They said no snow a few years ago. We got so. To be fair, the snow is probably going to only come up as trace. Let's see what the... Well, and the airport might not be picking up the snow also. That's the problem with our weather history and climate information is it's only recorded at one site. And a lot of times our weather varies quite drastically across this area because of the Gulf and our coastal region. Let's see. 3-day history. Let's see if we have any snow being reported at the airport. Light freezing, drizzle, fog, mist. No snow is being reported at the airport, so that's what will go in the record books. And to be fair, that technically it is snow, but it forms differently. or it forms similar but different than normal snow. But it is a ice crystal, which is what a snowflake is. Blizzard. Polar plunge. I mean, right now the water is warmer than the air, so not that I'm saying it will feel warm, because it won't. I don't like to surf. Let's see, who asked that question, or who mentioned that? Joe Torres said polar plunge. I don't like to surf when the temperature is below 58 degrees, the sea surface temperature. We're already at 56, but that's warmer than our air. So that's allowing that steam fog to develop, which is crazy. Like up north, they have lake effect snow. Yeah, the lake effect snow, that is a similar, our snow probably did form similar to that. I wish I had an answer to that, Jade. I'm trying to figure it out right now for our folks that live on the island if they need to find a place to stay inland. So it's a tough question. There is still a chance. So the latest high resolution model keeps rain along the island well into the evening, right? If the island can get back above freezing, it won't be an issue. If it stays below freezing, it will be an issue. And right now it's below freezing. I don't see temperatures really warming up. If we're lucky, they'll warm up 2 degrees this afternoon. And so the current temperature right now is 20 or 32. Oh, that's not true. That's a forecast. I was like, there's no way. Too many graphics. Here's the current. So it's 26 degrees right now in Corpus Christi, 31 Flower Bluff, 28 Port Aransas. So if we're lucky, I don't think Port Aransas gets above freezing. Flower Bluff could get above freezing, but it would be barely. It would be 33. And so all that's going to do is, keep the new rain from freezing and maybe help melt some of the current freezing conditions. But then any moisture that is left on the road overnight will freeze because we're going to be so cold. Let's go back to that forecast graphic. So any moisture on the roads is going to freeze overnight, and that's the problem. Will they close the bridge? Tough call. Will it be hazardous to drive on? Possibly. So 9 degrees is our wind chill. That doesn't matter. That's not going to play a role on whether or not water freezes. That's just how it feels on your skin. So that's why we say bundle up, dress in layers, gloves, hats, socks, scarves, all the above. The less skin being shown, the warmer you're going to be. If your skin that is exposed is going to feel like it's 9 degrees on it. So 24 degrees, the low in Corpus Christi tonight, 28 the low in Flower Bluff. So that's about the temperature. Port Aransas is coming in at about 26. So it's going to be cold. Water will freeze if it's left on the roadways from anything that happened today. Watching the movie Ice Twister. Jade Gray, Gacy, that's what we're trying to figure out, if they will close the bridge. There's a lot of school, let me get that information. Okay, here I'm about to post all the school updates that we have. So a lot of the schools are just monitoring. Bishop might, if you are in the Bishop area, check with your school's social media pages. Everyone should check their school's social media pages. That's what we're saying. for the latest updates. Bishop's the only one that may have some cancellations or late starts. Driscoll also has canceled class for Tuesday. Classes resume Wednesday. Anyway, I'm going to post this link so y'all can check it out. Don't watch The Lodge either, it's too real. Lots of ice on the island. I just posted a link to all the school closures or delays that we know of. They will be updated throughout the day, but also a lot of them are saying check their social media pages for any updates. I am going to go back to the steam fog because I love it. Okay. I think temperatures are going to stay below freezing all day for basically everybody, but possibly not the island. The island Flower Bluff might be able to reach about 33 degrees, but we'll be lucky if that happens. So Wednesday we get into the 50s. This is, who am I answering? When is this clearing out? Priscilla asked that. Wednesday we're going to get into the 50s. Thursday we get into the 70s. Then we see another cold front, and that's going to potentially have us freezing by Saturday morning. But Wednesday is when we're done with the freeze. Well, Wednesday morning we freeze, and then Wednesday night into Thursday morning, no freezing. Thursday night, no freezing, but a cold front moves through. I have never heard anything about the defrost causing the windshield to crack. I did have a friend, a meteorologist friend, far up north where their temperatures are much, much colder. They're like air temperatures below zero. She said her windshield cracked, but I have always used the defroster living in Ohio and other cold places to help prevent ice from forming on my windshield while driving. Wreck on the Harbor Bridge backed up from Gina. Snow needles on Leopard, so that would not be downwind from a body of water. Don't speed, definitely. Some other advices for driving is drive slower. Keep a lot of space between you and the car in front of you. Don't make any sudden movement. So when you swerve or hit your brakes really fast or do something really sudden, that's when you lose control. So driving slower is better because it prevents you from making those rush kind of decisions, right? Rylan, I think temperatures are going to stay below freezing all day. No light for half the town of Fremont. Tuesday, I have a dentist appointment on Tuesday. Our assistant news director laughed at me saying that. Well, somebody else said that they have to be in town in Corpus tomorrow, and I was like, yeah, I have somewhere to be tomorrow too. So Tuesday we should get above freezing. Let's go back to my hour-by-hour temperatures. So we're below freezing, I think, all day today. If we get above freezing, it would probably be Flower Bluff and the island, and that would be around 3 p.m. Then we're really cold tonight. We get above freezing by noon. Also, we'll see some sunshine. The latest model run from the HRRR kept a little bit more clouds in the region, but I think they'll be kind of the thin high clouds that mostly just filter the sun and don't prevent it from helping heat things up. So if we see sun tomorrow, that will help clear out conditions real quick, and we won't have to worry about freezing conditions. There's a very low chance for some black ice heading into Wednesday morning, but otherwise, I think once we get above freezing on Tuesday with a little bit of help from some sun peeking through, we'll be in much better shape. So Tuesday by lunchtime. So it depends on what time you're coming here. But the best rule of thumb is if most cars have a temperature reading, right? If you're parked in the garage, it's going to be a little warmer than the air temperature. You got to let it kind of factor that in, right? But if you're driving your car and that temperature says anything 32 degrees or below, the road and there's precipitation falling or has fallen in the past, then you're going to run into some problems on the roadways. So that's the best rule of thumb is if it's above freezing, we're in great shape. If it's below freezing, which I expect us to be all day long today, we're not in great shape. Downwind from the bay with snow needles. Have they treated the highways? I honestly do not know how much TxDOT has done, but I know that we saw it looked like the brine trucks passing our station headed toward the JFK Causeway area. So they're on it now, it looks like. Snow, I love all these movie recommendations. I need to watch Snowpiercer. That sounds good. I like Chris Evans. Oh, one side, Romeo has Light in Fremont, but not everybody does. 2013. A lot of great movie recommendations in this Facebook Live for the cold. Staying inside, that's a good thing to do on a day like today. There are basketball games tomorrow, if I heard correctly. We are not rising above freezing. We will rise above freezing. So here's our temperature for Tuesday. We get above freezing tomorrow afternoon. So that will help improve conditions drastically. Noon to, I don't have it going out past 5 p.m., but noon till about probably 8 p.m. We should be in decent shape above freezing. And again, with the help of the sun, we'll evaporate a lot of this. It's just a little bit of rain and a little bit of ice, but that causes a lot of problems. So it will evaporate pretty easily and dry up once we get above freezing, but it's not going to do that easily if we're not above freezing and don't see the sunlight, which is why we're going to keep it most of the day today. There is a chance for ice on the roads, probably more in the form of like black ice where you don't see it. Well, all of it kind of is like that, but I would be careful. It's going to probably be more patchy tomorrow where we're not getting fresh ice, but anything left over from today is going to be on the roads at 7 a.m. tomorrow, Rita. Heard the causeway had, David is reporting not noticing ice on the causeway. JFK one, headed toward Padre Island, Port Aransas. Rita, I hope you heard my answer. Thank you for commenting. I know I'm trying to show the steam as much as possible so like I can steal it and save it and post it. It's so fascinating. It's my favorite thing. Other than wearing a beanie, the steam fog's my favorite thing about cold weather. Bevo has some of the icy snow mix on the ground. I posted a link to the schools. That was from KIII's Facebook page, so look for the comment from KIII. when I heard that the treatment trucks were headed that way toward Oso, not sure how much they're doing on SPID. Another trick that I learned when I lived in Lubbock was avoid the bridges. So if you stay on the surface roads, which obviously if you have to cross the JFK or the Harbor Bridge, those are two bridges that are hard for people to avoid. You gotta do crazy things to avoid them, right? But roads like SPID, you can avoid those bridges, right? Just stay on the surface roads, avoid taking SPID, and you'll be a lot safer. That's what we used to do in Lubbock. So there's a loop around Lubbock where it has all the rises, all the bridges going over the surface streets, right? And so if you got on that loop, it was danger. But if you stayed off the loop, you were a lot safer. And so that's the best driving advice, if you have to drive, that I can give, is to avoid highways like SPID. Obviously, you have to take it if you're coming from Flower Bluff. You have to cross a bridge somewhere, right? All right, we've been getting some updates about stuff going on. Watch some Bob Burgers. Hot meal, oh, a hot meal and beverage. Don't get me started thinking about food. I've been thinking about carne asada like all morning long. I don't know why that sounds so good right now. But anyway, if anybody watching this Facebook Live has Spectrum, like Spectrum Internet, Wi-Fi, things like that, maybe TV, are you noticing an outage in your area? We're getting reports of Spectrum outages in some of the neighborhoods around Corpus Christi and the region. So if you have Spectrum and you're like, yes, my internet is not working or this is struggling, leave a comment with maybe like your area code or the neighborhood region that you live in so we can get an idea of where those issues are and we can follow that and help monitor that situation, and hopefully Spectrum will get it up shortly because we want to stay connected even in the cold, right? Two degrees in Michigan. Doctor appointment in Austin Wednesday. So Wednesday we're not heating up per se, but there's no rain in the forecast Wednesday. And additionally, we're gonna get in the 50s. Austin, let me see my Texas map. Temps past, temps rolling. So Wednesday, Austin starts off with a hard freeze. They get above freezing. So conditions should be much better. In fact, Wednesday afternoon, Austin's 45, 46, San Antonio, we're 53. So by Wednesday afternoon, travel should be in much better shape, and I think you'll be okay. Wednesday is definitely the better driving day. Yeah, the ghosty feel, John Thomas and Barbie and I were talking about that this morning with the steam fog and the Lexington, the blue ghost vibes. Spectrum in the Bluff is on. Bluff Spectrum is working. That's good to know. If anyone has any reports about whether their Spectrum is working or not working, we would love to hear that. Can we drive tomorrow from Alice to Corpus? Okay, so here's the deal with the driving. The best word of advice is if it's below freezing, there could be ice, right? Because we've seen rain today and we've seen freezing rain, and that's not gonna go anywhere unless we get above freezing. And so tomorrow we are expected to get above freezing. So this isn't the Alice temperature, but I can pull that up. So tomorrow we start off really cold, so I wouldn't drive anywhere in the morning. But by tomorrow afternoon, we should be above freezing, and that would improve conditions dramatically, especially if we could get this cloud layer to be pushed a little bit further south. We would easily heat up to near 40 degrees tomorrow. So with less clouds and more sunshine, we would near 40. With the clouds sticking around, we may be in the mid to upper 30s, but we're still gonna get above freezing on Tuesday. So much better driving conditions by the time we get above freezing on Tuesday. So I would say check the temperatures, check Drive Texas, also Romeo, but driving conditions will be much improved on Tuesday. Should we expect power outages? Anytime we've got freezing rain, we can get power outages. That reminds me, I wanted to look at the palettes. I wanted to look at our rainfall accumulation, which is probably like nothing. Midnight. It's probably a trace, yeah. So essentially, we are not seeing a lot of rain, but we are seeing enough rain for ice to accumulate. So Port Aransas is the only place reporting to 107 inch of rainfall anytime we get ice accumulation. So granted, not all of that ice froze as freezing rain. Some of it clearly fell as snow needles. And additionally, some of it fell and melted before it was able to freeze. And so not all of the rain has accumulated as ice. We're getting trace amounts of rain. It's not being reported at Corpus Christi how much rain we've seen. Granted, if it froze, it's not going in the rain gauge, and then that will all take some time for the National Weather Service to figure out how much rain or water we got out of today if it's frozen. But not frozen precipitation since midnight. Port Aransas has picked up to 107 inch. So let's see if we can look at our rainfall rates. I don't think I have something created for that. So the precip rate is like drizzle, like basically nothing. This doesn't start until 0.025. Okay, so we got a different contour table now. And I'm gonna see where it starts. This starts at 0.01. The darker blue is approaching 1/10 of an inch. So let's go back further. Whoa, I messed that up. Precip rates, last 6 hours, and blue. So our precip rates, granted, the rain was moving, right? But our precip rates did get up to maybe 1/10 of an inch an hour. So any ice accumulation, here's the ice graphics. Here's our ice impacts, right? So any accumulation that's over 1/10 of an inch is when travel really becomes hazardous and we get scattered power outages. Anything under 1/10 of an inch is isolated power outages. I think we're somewhere in between few and some. So we've got some areas with fewer of the icy impacts and some areas with more of the icy impacts. But we definitely have a glazing of ice, and we definitely have icy bridges and overpasses, and we definitely have some isolated, possibly even up to scattered power outages. Again, we have a spectrum power outage, or not a power outage, but a spectrum outage that we've heard about. Flower Bluff sounds like you're okay, but curious about some other areas that could be without spectrum. AISD, is that Alice? Won't close, and we're waiting to hear from Diocese for our littles. Interesting. It is possible we saw the smallest of snow flurries in Aransas Pass about an hour ago. It lasted about 7 minutes. Yeah, we've been getting snow needles across much of the area, and they look something like this. This isn't the best image, but you can see it looks like snow. But when you get really close or you pick them up, it's like fine little skinny needles, and they form a little differently than the traditional snowflake, but essentially they are kind of an early on version of a snowflake. And they're really cool. Like, it's so cool that we got to see that today. Tomato soup and a grilled cheese, yum. Spectrum is working on Cimarron. Stay safe, Romeo. Smallest of snow flurries. All right, well, I think the comments are starting to come to an end. Let me think about some of the key points to get across. I think this is an important graphic. This is specifically Corpus Christi, 24 degrees, your low Tuesday, Wednesday, wind chill colder Tuesday because our winds will be stronger. So here's the wind graphic for the upcoming week. Tomorrow, well, I don't know why it's not showing up on this computer. I wonder if I have it open. Is my weight, well, anyway, we don't have to see the winds because the arrows are pointing the right way and the lines are at the right height. But tomorrow, we are going to get 20 to 30 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts up to 40 miles per hour. That's tomorrow. Wind will be an issue tomorrow. The good news is wind creates friction. Friction creates heat, and heat leads to melting, right? So that's the positive thing about the wind on Tuesday is windy conditions will feel colder to us based on the wind chill, but they actually help heat temperatures up a little bit, especially overnight. Then we get much lighter wind on Wednesday, so that's why the overnight wind chill heading into Wednesday morning is not as cold because the wind is not as strong. Then Thursday and Friday, we warm up Thursday, a cold front blows through into Friday, gusts 35 miles per hour with and behind that front. And then Saturday, we see easterly winds, southeast winds return Sunday. And that's when our temperatures really start to warm up and we see the chance of rain returning. So the biggest takeaway is we are potentially looking at more than 24 hours below freezing for Corpus Christi, Beeville, possibly even Padre Island and Port Aransas. Then we get above freezing Tuesday. So it will be much easier to drive on Tuesday afternoon. Then we fall back below freezing, but driving should be fine heading into Wednesday because those icy spots will be allowed to melt. Now, some shaded areas or less traveled areas may still have some icy spots by Wednesday morning, but overall, bridges, everything that is well traveled will be much improved. Wednesday, we should be in good shape, but it's still going to be cold. We're talking a hard freeze, 9 to 12 hours below freezing. Then we warm up and we're not below freezing the rest of the week. But behind that cold front, there is a very low chance that we get below freezing or we near freezing Saturday morning. Then we warm up into next week, and I don't see much in the way of cold. I see warmer conditions with rain, especially Monday and Tuesday, or Sunday and Monday. So that would be nice. We still could use the rain. Hopefully it falls in our watershed. It's a little too far out to be forecasting those specifics, though. Then the last thing is are wind chill. So dangerous wind chills. For kids that do have to go back to school, you've got to bundle them up, especially if they're not just running right into the door. It's going to be so cold. Wind chills around the single digits and low teens. So we're talking 10, 9 degrees, feels like it's 6 degrees possibly in Beeville tomorrow morning, with a north wind sustained around 20 miles per hour, 22 miles per hour. So it will be cold. Even Flower Bluff 13, Port Aransas 11. Brr. Air temperatures in the 20s across the board. We could have some teens showing up in areas like Beeville and George West. That's tomorrow morning. So those are the biggest takeaways. We do have wind chill warnings, advisories, so forth, all set into place, but and freeze warnings and all kinds of warnings. The biggest takeaway is let's check on that winter storm warning and make sure that hasn't been extended. So our winter storm warning is still it looks like they might have extended that. So this is Nueces County. Okay, it says 3 p.m. Oh, it's the wind chill warning is through 11 a.m. tomorrow. The winter storm warning is still through 3 p.m. today. So they have not extended that at all. So that is good news. And let's look at the latest radar before I fully sign off. So we do still have some freezing rain. It's not nearly as much as what we saw earlier today. If you're getting any type of snow reports right now, let me know. Snow, freezing rain, drizzle, any of the above, but the radar is much clearer. Remember, we've got a lot of radar scatter, radar clutter from the wind turbines in San Patricio County and Refugio County, but there is some rain moving through right there. So that's rain. And let's look at our visibility. So visibility has improved big time in Corpus Christi. That's good news. We still have some low visibility. That's where that rain was falling kind of right along 77 through Robstown. And Falfurrias is seeing some low visibility as well. So right through that kind of 77 corridor, but also extended toward Falfurrias is where we're seeing some freezing rain right now. The island, we still could have a little bit of freezing rain heading into the evening, but then we dry out overnight and we won't see a fresh layer of freezing rain tomorrow morning, but we still could see some slick spots due to the rain that fell this morning. Of course, Pearl, I hope it was very informative, and I hope everybody stays safe and warm. I love hearing about all your food that you're making today. A roast today with yummy veggies. Delicious. It is possible that you saw snow flurries. A lot of us, so they weren't really snow flurries. I mean, they were snow flurries, but they are what we call snow needles, which form in slightly warmer conditions than the traditional snowflake, and they're much thinner. They don't have the 6 points like a normal snowflake does. They're just a needle. That's why they're called snow needles. So that's probably what you saw in Aransas Pass. It's interesting that lasted only 7 minutes. A lot of great updates for us to dive into as a weather team from y'all's reports, but I appreciate it a lot. I hope everybody stays safe and warm. Don't drive if you don't have to, but if you are driving, my advice is stay on the surface streets if you can. Avoid bridges, and you'll be a lot safer. That's all I have for you folks. We'll end on the 7-day. And don't forget, there is a link up here that will have updates. The KIII, well, that link might not work, but KIIITV.com/weather will give you the latest weather updates, and then you can click on our weather story, which dives into all the in-depth details. This Facebook Live was probably way more in-depth than that story, but anyway, that's all we got. So thank you everyone for watching. This is officially ending.